Ah, good morning, I think. Hold it. Has she said anything yet? Like, I'm recording this?
I didn't hear anything.
I didn't hear anything either. Let me, well, she says she's recording. So, welcome to the Pastords.
This is such scary
It
territory.
is scary
We don't
territory.
know. Are we on? Are we
Well, I can
live?
see audio's working, I can see video's working. So, we're just going to go with it like it's actually
Right.
working.
By faith. We're going to step out and speak it by faith.
Look at you. He's actually taking lines out of our song for the day, which Bruce picked this week after Roger picked an unholy secular song last week. I'm picking something more worshipful and Christian-like. Yeah, Roger's
Okay, another
yawning.
Christian song.
I don't know, Christian. Well, I figured we should probably throw some Christian song. It's like throw the dog a bone every now and then.
Well, we have. Actually, we've probably had,
Well, you started us off on Promised Land, which was
right.
what they used to be called crossover stuff. Like Toby Mac, Sheryl Crow. Oh, they're
Ooh,
crossing over. Yeah, that was
yeah.
like the worst thing in the world. And
Amy Grant.
it's like
Remember when she crossed
cross-dressing.
over?
It's not good. So
Switchfoot or whatever the other, yeah, there are any numbers that, yes, yeah.
yes, but this week I chose the song by Patrick Mayberry, "Lead On, Good Shepherd."
And Bruce, tell us why you picked the song Lead On, Good Shepherd.
Well, are you sure you don't have any trivia for us first?
I do not.
Well, for those that are interested, the Tennessee got to the finals of the SEC tournament and lost to Florida. Florida's very good this year. It's going to be interesting to see
They
how
came
everything
on,
plays
right,
out in the, just in the tournament.
14 SEC teams made the tournament.
Really?
It's a record. The next closest, it was 11 teams,
Which is a lot.
which is a lot. 14 SEC teams are in
The March
on the men's
Madness.
side. And
Wow.
on the women's side, I didn't see what the number is, but the SEC is very strong on the women's tournament bracket as well.
Okay. Well,
14.
that is a lot. No, I just Tennessee needs to be hot. They need to be hot. It's time to be hot. I wish they were either hot or cold. Because lukewarm, I
Well,
want to
getting
spit
to
them
the
out of my mouth.
finals of
Yeah.
your conference tournament in a very strong
Where Auburn and
conference
Alabama are crazy good.
and 14 teams from that
Right.
conference
Yeah. That's a big deal.
are going to the tournament. So to go to the finals, they're playing well,
Hmm.
but it's going to be a
It's
challenge.
going to be a thing. It's going to be an interesting
March
thing.
Madness,
March Madness.
so
And
much fun.
the first semi-major of the golf year. I was wearing my golf like attire today.
Yeah, we can't. It's not officially a major, but
I know.
it's sort of a
It's sort of a
almost major.
it's a non-major major. It's the Players Championship, but Rory won in the playoff on Monday, which I was able to watch because I was at home. And
The guy he the guy he beat. Did you
JJ
see
Spawn,
the club relief thing he had the day before?
no,
No, it's just a funny thing. So, long story short, he gets it just off the fairway, so he's in a really rough lie, but he's right near a sprinkler head. So you can drop within, I think, 3 feet for
oh,
relief. Well, he dropped within 3 feet, but there was another sprinkler head. He dropped, which allowed him 3 feet of relief, which got him to the edge of the
fairway.
fairway.
Oh,
So he got out of because of the anyway, there was a lot of conversation about that, and so then he had a I think he ended up birding the hole. He had this nice.
yeah. Well, I was super proud of him. He hit a great shot into 17, which is the island green. Great shot, tracking on the flag. He's loving it. He was just one club too long.
Well,
Literally flew the entire green.
but that's where, because I got to think about this, is just the wind
Okay.
takes skill out, wind gusts.
Right.
In other words,
Right.
he hit a gorgeous shot.
You're guessing.
Right.
I mean, that's really it's
Well,
guess.
that's all you can do because you can't tell when, like, if there's a steady wind,
Right. If there's 8 miles an hour,
right? If you had a just steady wind, But when you have wind gusts,
Roger, and they were showing like they would show it would go from 20 to like 8.
right,
Well, if you get to 20 going downwind,
downwind.
okay, yeah, you're gonna fly.
That's what happened.
It's just
Right.
gonna go.
So it wasn't. So here's the thing: is you literally in this huge tournament, you're in the playoff, you hit the ball just like you want to,
Yeah,
and a wind gust takes it over the.
right. And good for. And I looked this up because I was concerned for him, because he's only won one time, but he for second place he got $2.5 million. So I think he's going to be okay with the 8 iron,
I
but he
just,
hit a little long.
I don't know how these guys make it. It's just
I know
it's a
it's
tough.
it's a struggle. Oh, and we started watching that movie last night that you put us onto, a chance encounter.
Yeah.
So far, it's very fun. It's
Okay.
very interesting. It's also a song about music and music writing. But back to the topic of today, which is lead on, Good Shepherd. So as you know, Roger, it's kind of a contemporary take on Psalm 23, and little, analogies to that psalm without that throughout the song. But the reason I chose it, so last year during one of my I was in a really difficult space, tough season. That song, I can't remember. I heard it and I loved it, and so I played that song just about every day for 4 weeks. Just this lead on, Good
Wow.
Shepherd. It was just this that and Come Jesus Come, which is the song I picked last time. It was just it helped me get through that season. And what I love about that song is he talks. So if you're not familiar with the song, it's lead on, Good Shepherd. I'll follow all my days. There's nothing sweeter than to watch you make a way. You've walked me through the valley, but you've never steered me wrong. Lead on, Good Shepherd, lead on. But then there's this little bridge called Step by Step, Day by Day. Step by step, day by day. Lead me on, Lord, I pray. Road gets dark, walk by faith. Lead on, Good Shepherd. And it's just this reality of tomorrow's not promised. Jesus himself said, don't worry about tomorrow. It is a step by step, day by day thing. And I think that kept me present in that season. Because if I started looking too far out, I'd be like, what bad thing might be out there? Or how is all this going to resolve? And that song kept me centered on this is a day by day thing. This is just, Lord, lead me this day.
Yep.
Give me daily bread for this day. And so, yeah, I love that song the first time I heard it. Now, musically, I love it too. You've heard me sing to it. I just
Right.
love that song. It rocks.
It's one that right. Right.
It's almost got a David Crowder feel to it with the way that they do the drum set at the beginning before the key drum thing. But excellent song.
the well, and it strikes me. You look okay. This good shepherd. Now it's interesting. Like Psalm 23 doesn't say good shepherd.
No, it's the Lord is
Lord's
my
my shepherd. We know that Jesus would later say, "I am the good shepherd."
Yep.
And so there's this tying of that together. But part of
He
the
was the grand fulfillment of Psalm 23. I just thought about that. Interesting.
yes, exactly. So but it brings in this element, Jesus, why do you call me good? If I'm good, you can trust where I lead.
Yeah.
If I'm good, you can trust. So our friend Gary Gooch,
Yep.
um,
Hey, Gary. I know you're
Shout
one
out
of the
to
three
Gary.
people listening right now.
so Gary put a comment on a video I had done on shepherding.
Yeah.
And he put a note in there. He said, having lived in France and learning from shepherds there,
Uh-huh.
he said they have two treks during the year. He said there's a trek to the mountains and there's a trek to the coast. So in the spring, you trek to the mountains where he said the winter snows are melting and creating water and good pasture land.
Yeah.
And then as you're going to the winter, you go back down to the coastlands. But he said both of this trek is dangerous. It's challenging. So this image he was talking about of the shepherd leading through the valley, in order to get to the still waters, in order to get to the green pasture land,
The promised land.
right?
Yeah.
You got to go through dangerous territory. You got to go through enemies. You've got to go through passes that are, especially for sheep, they're sort of dangerous.
Yeah.
And just this reality that's powerful, even in that song, is where I'm going to follow you. This is the tension we deal with. Wherever the shepherd leads, And we want to think, oh, the shepherd's not going to take us to a dangerous place. He's not going to take us to the valley of shadow of death because he's good. No, good means he knows what he's doing. And very often, to get to the good, to get to the healthy, to get to the, you got to go through the storm.
Right,
You got to
and
go.
you nailed it. And that whole song is about the hard part.
Yes.
There's nothing in there that talks about still waters, green pastures. He talks about the water's trouble, but you got me through.
Right.
He talks about a lot of canyons you've brought me through, mountains that have up and moved. In other words, every analogy, road gets dark, walk by faith. Every analogy in
Yes.
this is the hard parts of life. And that leads me to, I've got two favorite parts of that song in terms of lines. One would be considered a little bit trite because it's so catchy. You know, it's like a sermon, a little sermonette, turning my problems into a promised land.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so at first I didn't like it. I'm like, oh, that's too clickbaity. It's but then I realized the season that I was in, the very problem that I was in, the hardship that I was in, is what led to the better solution than I thought.
Yep.
In that sense of promised land. And I'm like, and I would sing that song, praying that prayer, turning my problem into a promised land. I'm trusting God to do something that only He can do from this difficult situation. And that's exactly what did happen. So as tried as it might be, or as cutesy as it might be, it really was for me. The problem itself became the promised land. And it was a step-by-step journey. I couldn't look beyond the next, you can't look further down the road than this is what I know right now. And I'll follow Jesus right now. And as best I know it, I'm following Jesus in this process. And it did become this promised land. So I love that lyric.
Well, and the reality, we can talk about how nice the promised land sounds, and
Yeah.
but to the same point, the theme about the promised land is to get there, you got to go through the wilderness.
A struggle, yeah.
And it's not that and here's the thing, it's not that the wilderness is an obstruction to the promised land. It's the way, it's how you get there. In other words, God uses the wilderness to prepare you for the promised land. And living in the promise with the good shepherd, this is the thing. The thing I love about this imagery is if I'm following the good shepherd, whatever I'm going through, I'm always with the shepherd.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm with what we've called the promise maker is the one who's leading me. Yeah. So wherever land he's taking me to, he's actually the promise. So that's why it behooves me, it's wisdom for me to hold on to the shepherd, trust his wisdom. Now, we sheep, as we're prone to do, I think I know a better route.
It's easier.
Right. I'm going to go this way. There's a lot of free open space here. I don't realize it's called a cliff, but yeah, I'm going to head out that way. The shepherd's like,
going for the open space.
Hold on, guys. Stay right. It's so much more free and open here.
If you got a parachute, it's great. You'll love it. If you don't, you're not going to love it.
And the shepherd with the staff catches me just before I walk off the edge.
I'm reminded of how many mountain summits that I've done, and the views that you have, and some of the camping areas when you get to the top of these things that are just gorgeous, like Precipice Lake, 10,400 feet. But the road to Precipice Lake is precarious. You could call it precarious. Because it is
precipitous.
It's a brutal, and literally the lake sits on the edge. I mean, you're camping on the edge of the Great Western Divide. One of the most beautiful campsites. I still say top 3 for me in the United States. Because one time when we got up one morning, and the sun's coming up, the clouds are below us. A blanket of just snow white, puffy clouds are below us. The sun's coming above it, and we're like, this is surreal. It's amazing. But it almost killed people. I've had people give up on that section. Leave me here, I'm going to die. I'm like, well, we're not going to leave you here. We are going to carry your bag for you to get you up to the top. I've carried more backpacks. The only place I've carried more backpacks, literally, is Walls of Jericho, which is another 1,200-foot climb. But that climb is so hard and so long, it's like, we're never going to get to Precipice Lake. We're never going to get to the promised land, as it were. But we always do, and it's always beautiful, and it's always good. So that was one of my favorite lyrics. Any lyric that you happen to like out of that song?
No, I felt like most of them were trite and kind of just,
I can see that.
trendy, that kind of stuff. I don't really get into that kind of
Well,
thing.
I figured you would love the song because you've done some of the best teaching that I've ever heard on the Lord's My Shepherd on Psalm 23.
Right.
And so I knew at some point that's going to resonate with Roger. Apparently not.
Oh, I've got a nugget.
Oh, do you?
Right.
This I don't know if you saw me teeing it up, but that's what I was doing right
This
here.
must mean Bruce is depressed again. He's got
No,
nothing to say.
I'm actually in a great headspace. I'm in a better headspace than I've been in a long time, which is good. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
which is
Yeah.
praise God for that. No, I was going to save my nugget for later. I had two nuggets.
So I had a good shepherd thought like 3 days ago. So before you even mentioned this song, whatever,
Really?
yeah, there was a so
What's that called? Serendipity? Yes.
well,
I
and what's
love it.
fascinating, what I think you will appreciate is that it fits the hiking analogy. It fits the analogy you just talked
It's a
about.
win-win. Here we go.
So I was just looking, so there's the Psalm 23, the shepherd's leading, and he's taking, he's preparing meals, but you're following the leader. Like you we desperately need a guide. So if you think about a hike, you have a guide you
Yeah.
that knows. And if you think here, if he's taking us to the valley of shadow of death, Jesus has been there. He knows this trail.
Yep.
We're walking it for the first time. We're walking through a trail. Maybe it's a pending divorce. Maybe it's cancer. We're walking a trail we have not gone before,
Yeah.
but the shepherd has.
Yeah.
He's gone there. So you're following the lead. We need a guide. I hadn't noticed this before, but at the very end of the psalm, it says, surely goodness and mercy will follow me
Go follow me. So
all,
I'm following the shepherd, and who's following me?
but it lends. So the thought is, he goes before me and he goes behind me. Goodness and mercy
Huh?
is the shepherd. And what hit me is when you do your hikes, you have a guide and you have a
We have
sweeper.
a sweeper. Yep.
And I thought
Oh, I got to teach that next weekend.
the
That's good.
the sweeper comes. Well, tell the group what a
Okay.
sweeper, why you have a sweeper on your hikes. These, yeah.
All right. So on my hikes, and it's surprising how often a person can get off trail and lost, even if you're in a group. But the group always gets spread out. I don't
Because
force
they don't all
everyone to
move at the
hike.
same pace.
No, I have some people that hike at 3 miles an hour and some people hike at 1 mile an hour. And if you try to make
This
a
is
1 mile an
fascinating.
hour hike at three, they're going to die. If you make a 3 mile an hour hiker walk at one, they're
They're
going to
gonna
die.
die. Death, not good.
Right. Either way, their body is just wearing out. If you hike too slow, your body's
That's
wearing out
fascinating.
because it's
Yeah,
like going uphill, but your heart's at rest.
right.
It's like you're sitting on the couch, but you're going uphill. Whereas if you're trying to hike too fast, it's overexertion on the other hand, where other people can do 3 miles an hour, but you're doing everything you can just to make that 1 mile an hour. Anyway,
By the way, super fast there. I do love the idea that all of us are following the shepherd, but we can go at different speeds.
different pace.
We
Yes.
have different skill sets. We have different strengths. At a certain point,
Yeah.
we're maybe barely make.
Roger, some people are better on uphills, some people are better on downhills. Like some
Okay.
people can just fly downhill, and I'm like, that's just crazy because it always feels more unsteady going
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
More people have been injured on a downhill on my hikes than on an uphill. The uphill, gravity is sort of holding you against the mountain.
Hmm.
Gravity's dragging you off the mountain going the other way. So
Right.
you have to be more careful. But a sweeper, so as the group gets spread out, a sweeper is always the last person on the trail. In other words, they're making sure that between me, because I'm usually the lead, that everybody gets into camp. Because from the lead position, I can see the people that are close to me, but I can't see everyone back there. And so the admonition to the sweeper is always don't let anyone get behind you.
Get behind you.
So 2 years ago on Machu Picchu, we had a sweeper and because some people in the so you often have a back group and a front group. The back group is going really slow, and most often the sweeper is a lot faster than the group that he's sweeping.
Hmm.
So he had gotten a little ahead of one person that was just going slow because others in the back group were going faster. And I think he was caught between do I stay with them or do I stay at the back? Well, so I got to a point up front. We're going to take a break, so I'm going to hike backwards and just see how everyone's doing back there. It might be a half mile sometimes that I'm hiking backwards to get to people. So I hike back there and I'm like, hey, let's call her Angela. Where's Angela? Because I got to the sweeper and there's two other hikers with him. He goes, oh, she's right behind us. She's coming. And I'm like, okay, that's a problem.
Cardinal rule of
The
sweeping.
cardinal rule is nobody gets behind you because if they fall or if they're having a respiratory event or if they've got any problem, you're now moving away from them, not toward them. Whereas if you're sweeping, you're always moving toward them. If they fall or they have a problem, you're moving toward them.
Right.
Well, sure enough, I go back. I've got Angela back respiratory event. Like she's wheezing. She's having a hard time breathing. We're at high altitude. We're at like 11,000 feet.
Okay.
So you've got altitude, you've got less oxygen, and she had an asthmatic condition that was firing
Yeah.
up. She was still being funny about it. She goes, I was just hiking along and I kept hearing someone go, hey. And she realized I'm wheezing. It was her lungs going, hey. And she was looking around for
I'll tell you, when your lungs are talking to you, that's not a
that's
good sign.
not a good sign. So I walk her to where the sweeper is, and I'm like, in that moment, I just said, "Hey, make sure that no one ever gets behind you." So she's having a respiratory event. So then I ran forward because I knew we had an inhaler further up,
hmm
which I carry on my trips now. I carry an inhaler just in case, not because I have asthmatic stuff, but in case someone does, I always carry an extra EpiPen.
So, yeah.
But ran up, got an inhaler for her, and within minutes, she was much better. But it was that moment of I needed surely goodness and mercy to be behind us,
Right.
not
Yeah.
ahead of us.
Yep.
And isn't it beautiful that it's sort of the analogy of the shepherd before us, the shepherd
And
behind us.
he goes
He,
right.
he doesn't leave us behind.
It's the beauty of if you look at the power of that analogy. Of course, we know the expansiveness, something of God as an image itself, but he is before us and he's behind us.
Yeah.
He is leading us, but he's also protecting from the rear. He's the whole picture, and I just never quite seen in a psalm that was about leading and leading this beautiful line.
Yeah.
Goodness and mercy follow me. This just added this little all of the journey. They're following me right into
That's the good shepherd.
right.
Goodness. Goodness is following me, always with me.
Right.
The idea that we can never be left behind.
Goodness is leading me, and goodness is behind me. And even the comfort of a sweeper, the fact that there is someone that no one gets left behind.
Yeah.
Even the image,
Even when they're pleading with us to leave them behind, because that's happened several times. Just leave me.
well, you think about it. It also fits the image that the good shepherd doesn't ever want any sheep lost. Like that person who gets behind, if someone gets behind the sweeper, now they're lost. There's no one accounting for them.
No, you sit down and take a break. If you're on a level section in particular, you can get up and go the wrong way. If you're going consistently uphill, you intuitively know to go back,
Right.
start again after a rest to go uphill. But I've had it where when I was sick with a cold one time, level section, took a break, took a
Interesting.
5 minute break, got on the trail, and started walking the wrong way. Didn't know it, ran into my group behind me because I was going ahead of the front group because I was checking the camp area.
And you acted like you were checking on
Well, you
them.
know what they said? They said, where are you headed, oh hike leader? Because they could tell I was massively disoriented. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? I mean, no, had I been thinking fast, when you have a cold, you're thinking a little slow. I just said, hey,
startled.
just checking on you. I wasn't startled. I was just checking on you guys, make sure you're good. Okay, so let's go the correct way. No, I was like, how did you guys get here? And they're like, where are you headed? Oh, he said, oh, hike leader. And I was like, I'm going the wrong way. This is going to be a bad trip, man. It's like mushrooms when you're young. It's going to be a bad trip, man.
Wait a second. How many mushrooms how many mushrooms?
I will not talk
Oh,
about
good.
Jungle and the Mushroom Fest. That's a story for another day.
I never had any mushroom. You never shared any mushrooms with
You
me.
did have mushrooms, but yours were all on pizza. Mine were more the kind you'd find on a tie-dyed shirt. Peace, love, and mushrooms.
I was smoking mushrooms. You were eating them.
Well, I no, they're still eating them. Roger is, as you can tell, Roger's never done drugs in his life. Roger would try to smoke a mushroom and be killed.
Wow, man. Wow, this is so, I am getting so high. This mushroom set.
What are you?
Yeah, I just rolled me some mushrooms.
I call it a moink. Oh, and that's where the Pastords.
We call it a mushroom chain.
Shrimp Jane. That's oh.
Oh gosh. Hey, we've needed a podcast where we had to just gut belly laugh.
A belly laugh, as it were.
Right.
You patted it. That was just made it that much more fun.
At Roger's total drug ignorance.
Roger got into a certain amount of trouble when he was young, most involving cars and girls. I still remember going in the Toronado at like 100 miles an hour. These cars,
but at least
these cars made in 1968 were not made to go 100 miles an hour. So there's that.
Yes, I had my moments, but yeah. And it's funny on that note, like speaking of leading, like
speaking of mushrooms,
but like I never ever had anyone offer me
a
drug.
Roger,
or
you were as goody two shoes. They knew not to do that.
Well, I mean, but you would think, like Doug Bennett was both our friends. If Doug,
yeah, you think
if Doug led you
astray, ever offered a joint today? Because he was friends with all three brothers. No, right. He did Bible studies.
But Dave and I weren't exactly the same in terms of.
No, David was the most goody-goody. You were the second most goody-goody. I was the most bad.
I drove 100 miles an hour.
Exactly, which Dave would not have done. So that was the outer limits of your crazy life.
The good shepherd protected me all the days of my life.
It's true. And when I look back at my high school years,
some of the
Holy Spirit saved me from myself so many times.
Oh gosh, I mean, true.
So many ways we've gone bad. Which leads me to, speaking of mushrooms, leads me to my next nugget out of the song that I just
love. A nugget.
And this, I realize this lyric for some people creates can create more anxiety than peace, but it creates peace for me.
Okay.
She talks about, she says, glory, glory, hallelujah. This is after she said, you've walked me through these deep canyons. You've moved mountains on my behalf. She goes, glory, glory, hallelujah. And then she says this, which can sound off topic. She says, walking with my Father into the great unknown. And I love that lyric. Now, some of that is because I love adventure. There's a part of, even when I take people on trips that I've been before, there's unknown things. There's weather, there's terrain things that can change. There's all sorts of things that are unknown. But there's something to me about hiking a brand new trail, like I've never done it before. Yeah. Like the first time I hiked Catalina Island, and I was solo on that whole trip. So I'm hiking this 40-something mile trip across an island by myself, and it's like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
It's like walking with God into the great unknown. And the reason I say great anxiety, there's a part of us, and I think this is woven into Western American culture. We want to know the future. We want to know what's next. We want to know what's about to happen. And yet walking with Jesus is a day-by-day thing. I don't know where he might take us tomorrow. In fact, I can look at times in my life where I'm like, oh, I see where we're headed. Okay, I see the path we're on. And then Jesus takes a hard left.
Yep.
And he's like,
he did that a lot.
And I'm like, but what about Roger? And he's like, what is that to you? You must follow me. I'm like, but Roger stayed. I think we're off trail, Jesus. Yeah, we're going to go off trail, but it's walking with my Father into the great unknown. That song, that lyric, particularly at that season of my life, for me brought great peace. I don't know what's next.
It reminds me. Do you remember Stephen Curtis Chapman had the song "The Great Adventure"?
Oh, exactly that same lyric.
The exact same lyric. Into the great unknown.
Yep.
And there is.
This is the great adventure.
This is the great adventure. if we're with him, yeah, I don't know where we're going, but I know him.
Yeah.
And if he's good, then this place where I'm going,
And isn't that the whole, even the story of the promised land? It starts with
yes,
Abram,
good point. Yes.
and God says, I'm going to take you to an unknown place.
I'm not even telling you in advance. I want you to head out.
Right. And I can imagine Abram going, first question, where are we going? I'm leaving my family. I'm leaving my,
Don't worry about that. You'll find out.
Jesus actually said, you'll know when we get there. And I'm like, that was not helpful.
I'm not sure I want to go out on that journey.
Right.
Pack the whole clan up, everything, and we're just going to go literally into the great unknown. Look,
Right. And you're promising me that this is going to be a good thing, a land flowing with milk and honey. Yeah, you'll know it when you get there.
right?
So I'm like, that's the, and isn't that, maybe that's part of the whole narrative of Genesis through Revelation. This, we're walking, I think as much as we want to be walking into the great known, God's always on an adventure with us. And it's always, we finish one chapter, God starts a new chapter. In other words, our life, if I look at it as a book, this is something I've been thinking about for a while, but our life, it just has all these chapters. And one chapter seems like it's leading into one thing, and then it leads in a whole different direction. Even like in this season of my life, what I'm doing now is not what I foresaw myself doing 20 years ago at this age. Even 10 years ago, I didn't see myself doing this
Yeah,
at this age.
sure.
It's just different. But there's a part of me, I'm like, but God's in charge of all that. God writes the chapters. You know, I'll hear people, and I want to be careful because there's a part of this that's true. There's a part of it that's not. But they'll say, you know, it's this idea that your life is a book, so write the next chapter. Like we're in control of all that. And there's a part of that that's true. It's like we're in this beautiful dance with God. He's leading, but we're dancing. He's leading, but we're still creating. He's leading, but then we're doing new things. It's this beautiful dance that we're with God. Even when I talk about to people about calling, I always use now the word invitation. God's inviting us to join him in his work, but we're creating, we're doing.
And on that same note, it's what I love what we talked about earlier. He's leading. We're all walking at different paces and different
Yes,
styles.
good point.
Someone has a stick.
Yep.
They've got a pace. They do a certain kind of a thing. They have a certain gait.
This is our systematic theologians. We know where we're going. We've got our stick.
So,
but got other people that are
we're walking differently,
dancing.
and that's the creativity. Which what I love. I hadn't realized that so much makes perfect sense. But when you're not telling everybody exactly how they have to hike.
No, can't.
You're guiding them. Now they need to follow you because I mean that is but within there's the freedom for them to hike in a way that fits them.
Oh, and there's times where they have to go off trail, and I always make sure we talk about this on the front end. We got to go off trail to use the bathroom or something like that. The sweeper has to stop. I mean, I said make sure and let someone know because sometimes you get so spread out, you're walking by yourself at different times. If you stop, the sweeper's going to get to you. Ideally. Or if I stop, the group's gonna get to me. But sometimes two different times I've had people go off trail and then come back on trail, and the group went on because they didn't tell anyone, and then they walked the wrong way. Well, once you're going the wrong way, and the sweeper doesn't even know that it's not on the sweeper if he doesn't know you've gone off trail.
Right.
He or she.
Exactly. Yes.
If you've just gone off trail and don't let anyone know. I mean, it's the funniest thing. So on one of my trips with Mark, this is still one of my funniest moments with Mark Booth. We're hiking like for a week in the immigrant wilderness in the high Sierras of California. And I'm ahead and we're making a good pace. It's early in the morning. So we just started. We're in the first half hour of the trip. And I'm like, hey, Mark, I just holler back at him because he's maybe 20 feet behind me.
Oh, wow, that close.
Yeah, he had stopped to take a picture of this stream. I hollered back and said, hey, I've got to go off trail to use the bathroom. And that's all. And I went off trail. Well, he was by the stream. It's this waterfall thing. He didn't hear any of that. So I go off trail to use the bathroom. He gets on trail and he's like, oh, I was taking the picture. Bruce got way ahead of me because we were making pretty good time. And so he starts just hoofing it. I mean, he's just flying. So I come back on trail. I'm looking for Mark and I'm like, okay. And I go backwards to where he was. And I'm like, well, he's not there. I'm like, oh, he must be ahead of me. So I'm
So
just,
the whole party's ahead of you now.
well, it's just me and Mark. So right now, me and
Oh,
Mark are the only ones
oh,
hiking.
gotcha. Okay.
But
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
hilarious because he hiked his shoes off for the next 3 hours trying to catch me. And he can't catch me because I'm not ahead of him. He's flying. And finally, 3 hours in, he talks to a group coming the other way. And he's like, hey, did you happen to see a single hiker up there? And they're like, no. He's like, dang it, he is behind me. And I'll never forget it. I thought because he slowed down at that point, and he slowed way down.
Yep.
That the three hikers going the other day, they're like, "Hey, there's a guy that's looking for you, and he seems really upset." I'm like, "Well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it." Sure enough, I get to Mark. It's like he took me to the principal's office. He's like, "Where have you been? I knew you'd come up behind me grinning like a monkey," and I was laughing because he was so bothered by the fact that he had been hiking really fast for 3 hours for no apparent reason. And I was like, I'm sorry, I yelled at you and let you know. And he's like, well, I never heard any of that. So that's another lesson. Hiking along with Jesus. Let other people know where you're going. Jesus is still up front, he's still leading, but the great news is even if you go off trail, that GPS thing I talked about, what was it, months ago? By the Christian comedian. It's just hilarious. He
Right.
talks about, God's like a GPS. Because there's this one guy was asking him, how can God like let me into his family with all this bad stuff I've done? He's like, well, God's like a GPS. He's like, I want you to go straight here, I want you to go straight here, and then you go off and do your own thing. He's like, recomputing,
Redirect.
redirect. He said the bottom line is he's still going to get you home. And I love that. I'm like, that's a great analogy. There's been times in my life, not so much for Roger, but times in my life where I clearly got off trail, like sometimes way off trail. Roger calls those moments of my life incidents. That's the word
The
he uses.
mushroom
The
incident.
mushroom incident. There was the alcohol incident at Red Food Store when, unbeknownst to us, one of the meat market personnel poured 2 bottles of pure grain alcohol into the fruit punch. And Doug and
Made the
I,
holiday party a bit more festive.
right, this was like Christmas Eve, and we just that was the funnest day at work we'd ever had. We were like, I love
It's almost the
punch.
last day of work that
Yes.
either of you had.
Oh, good times. Well, Roger, what do you want to leave I almost said readers with, but they're listeners.
Well, what did come to mind, particularly when we were talking about the great adventure or with the unknown, is the pushback against this lie or myth we kind of, I will say this myth we sometimes have about the gospel and the Christian story that this is going to enable you to control your life more.
Yeah.
The promise of the shepherd is control, but that's precisely the whole idea actually with the shepherd is you're following the leader. You aren't in control.
Yeah.
Like I've talked about it many times, like I honestly like if there are two cars and we're stay together, I want to be the lead car.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the follower one.
Nope.
The lead one's making the decisions about which route. Okay, we're going to take this will be faster. We'll pass this car. We'll go around. The person behind has just got, I want to be that lead car. But the promise is actually, Jesus said, follow me. The whole, come follow me. But it's not an invitation into more control. It's actually an invitation into more trust,
No.
more, which I'm not great with, which I like the control side. And yet, that's not healthiest for me. That's not the promised land comes not trusting the way I would go or the route I would take. Or I think I would go faster here. I'm not sure this is a good idea.
Can we skip that section?
Yeah, can we skip that? Nope. I'm following the good shepherd, not into more control, but into more trust. And ultimately, too, the promise. I am safest. Here's the thing. I'm safest when I'm not in control.
Yeah.
The myth is,
Well,
the myth is I'm safest when I'm in control. Well, it's not, that's not true.
well, and this is why that lyric, walking with my father into the great unknown, is so comforting to me. It's only unknown to me.
Yes.
It's not unknown to him. I remember leading a hike with a group. This is out in the high Sierras, and I had done this section a lot, so I knew certain things about the trail. and knew one section of bridge was out because that had an avalanche. So you can't take that route. And I had people following me. They're like, "Hey, the trail says it goes this way." I'm like, "Yeah, we're going to go this way." And I didn't give them all the reasons why we were going that way.
Mhm.
Well, I had a couple people were like, "Well, we're just going to go straight here because the trail goes straight here." And it looks like that's because I had to take them. You have to go way down to
Mhm.
get by this thing. Well, sure enough, they got to that thing and there's no way across. And then they had to come all the way back and go. Because I will let people kind of do their own thing. I mean, they're grown adults, so I'll let them do what they want. But I realized
So
there
you
is
didn't tell them the bridge was out.
no, because they were like, it's that thing of maybe this is my own little arrogant moment. I don't know, but they were like, we know better. And I'm like, okay. There's part of me that's like, well, you can give that a whirl. And for all I know, the bridge could be back in commission by that time. So I'm like, well, if we're going to end up in the same place. My sense was that they're going to end up going the way we did. They did have to go the way that I did, but I realized it was not unknown to me. In other words, what was ahead was unknown to them. They actually thought they knew where the
Yep.
trail was going.
Yep.
And in truth, there was a trail that went that way, but it couldn't get them to the destination unless they can fly. You're going to have to go down literally like 500 feet and cross down here because it's narrow enough where you can actually cross it without a bridge at that point. So I was just thinking, yeah, it's not unknown to God. And
Right.
even when I get off trail, the good news is I can still hike backwards and get right back on trail again. And Jesus is waiting for me.
Doesn't it speak to the humanity of how often we do think we know the trail better than the shepherd?
Yeah.
We know a better route. Listen, you head that way. I'll meet you. I'm going to take this route and meet,
I'll meet you on the other side.
and then I come.
Hey, Jesus, let me get ahead of you on this one. That's like it's like Peter taking Jesus aside and going, no, 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 that's not where you're guiding us.
I don't think you.
And Jesus is like, no, I am. I do need to be. It's important that I lead. Let me just say that, Peter. It's important that I lead.
You are not the good shepherd.
Wherever you are, listeners, wherever you are, and viewers, wherever you are on your own journey right now, man, trust the good shepherd day by day. Don't get ahead of him. I think I love the future. You know me, I'm always about what's next, and there's a part of me that always wants to get into what's next. I found myself literally yesterday because people are using this term all the time. You know, being mindful, being mindful, being mindful. I'm like, it's this hocus pocus Eastern mysticism being mindful thing. And so I literally Googled it on my phone. I'm like, what's being mindful? I hear people talk about it. I've even used the term, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying. Why am I using the term?
What am I saying?
Exactly. So, but I looked it up, and it's the idea of being entirely present, experiencing all the sensations and the emotions and whatever you're experiencing
Okay.
in the present without getting into the future or looking into the past. That's one part of it. Because I rarely get stuck looking in the past, but I have to work hard sometimes to reflect. It's because that's an important part of my life. I'm
Mhm.
always looking forward, what's next, but it's staying in that middle space, and then it's not without judgment. So being present without judgment. In other words, I don't need to judge this moment, this present moment, as bad or good, right or wrong. It's just what I'm experiencing right now. It's very hard to do because we almost the right side of our brain almost immediately makes a judgment about anything that we're experiencing. So as I was reading about being mindful, we started watching that movie, the Chance Encounter,
Okay.
and he says it's interesting. He writes on the back of a
Now, oh, coaster.
coaster. He writes on the back of it to now, tomorrow is yesterday, or something like. Oh no, the memory to now,
I don't.
tomorrow's memory, something like that. And
Right.
it was like, that's interesting. The present will be tomorrow's yesterday.
Right.
So enjoy the present without trying to get in front of it, behind it. There is
Yeah.
this import to being now. So I just want to encourage people, man, enjoy the present. Be mindful, follow the shepherd, but know that it's a day by day journey. It's you're not going to get very unlikely to get the whole map. Now you do get a sense of long-term destination, the fulfillment of the kingdom of heaven and all that. But even then, it's a very circuitous route that we don't see right now.
Right. Every now and then, and you've seen this on the, you can see the trailhead. You can look.
Yeah,
Where
we
you
can
look
actually.
at,
Oh, we can see
you can
it. We're
see
like,
where you're
I'm gonna
going.
be there tomorrow. Yeah.
But most of the time,
Nope.
you're not seeing where you're going to be. But isn't it, every now and then we get a glimpse like that.
That's a good word. We could go on this analogy all day.
We're killing it.
Great podcast, Roger.
God is good.
It all the time. I just felt like I
Well,
should say that.
that's Promise Keepers.
Okay, all right, sorry. I was just doing my part, being evangelical or
Yes.
something.
Thanks for hanging to the very end of this whole thing.
And for anyone that has made it this far, we're going to tell you what next week's song is next week.
Yes, we don't even know yet.
We don't know.
We don't even know.
It's up to Roger or one of our
It
listeners.
may be about a drug trip. We don't know yet.
We're not going to talk about drug trips anymore.
Lucy in the Sky with